fans, Chris Durrell here, going to bring you another DFS PGA video. Going to be trying to bring this to you every Wednesday going forward. What we're going to do here is we're going to look at some GPP pivot plays, look at some ownership projections, some things that stand out from FanShare Sports. Going to be looking at some PrizePicks plays, going to look at the weather going into the event tomorrow, and then going to look at some locks and how I'm going to be using the DFSR optimizer this week to build some winning lineups. Before we get into that, I want to tell you where you can find my content. So first of all, patreon.com/Jagerbombs. And for $5 per month is going to get you one sport. For $10 per month is going to get you access to all sports. That's going to give you the cheat sheet as well as my Slack channel. I provide a lot of information in there as well, some one-on-one coaching for people that are new to certain sports, help them out there as well. For Canadians, that's $7 a month per sport, or $13.50 a month for all sports. And I cover NASCAR, NFL, baseball's coming back here within a month. Super excited for that. NBA season about halfway through. NHL season's about halfway through. College football's done for the year. PGA, I also cover the round 2, 3, and 4 showdowns on there as well. PrizePicks plays, Thrive Fantasy, a little bit getting into that as well. We cover soccer sheets over here, UFC sheets. League of Legends will be back very soon. College basketball, and then I mentioned NHL here as well. You can also head over to DFSR.com, and on the homepage here, if you scroll down, you can find the PGA. You'll find my weekly article here. You can get in there and see all my picks for this week. You can also go over, if you're new and want to get access to the PGA Optimizer, as well as the chat and my DFS PGA cheat sheet. You can also head over to the sales page here, and down at the bottom you'll see for $14.95 a month you get our classic, which gives you access to my sheets and the member chat room. And then for $29.95 a month is the pro package. You get all of that, plus you're going to get the optimizers, which we have for NBA, NHL, PGA, MLB, and NFL. All right, let's jump into the tournament here. This week we got the Arnold Palmer Invitational, Bay Hill Club and Lodge. Last year it played as the hardest course on tour. That counts even the majors. We had wind pretty much all 4 days. So we're going to kind of dive in and look at the weather first of all and see where we can go from there. But this is a look at the course here. We do have 5 par 4s, over 450 yards. And if we look at some of the approach shot data from Fantasy National, this is crazy here. We see 29.2% of all approach shots come from the 200 plus yard range, and that's 100,000 plus approach sample size there. So it's usually we're going to see like even if it's a longer course, we'll see about 24% as the 200 plus and maybe 23, 24% in the 175 to 200. So seeing a lot of long irons here, and it does make sense just simply because when we look at the course, there's water in play on 9 holes. It's danger off the tee, some very tiny driving areas if you're looking to go over and land it over that 300 yards. So it's a lot of risk involved if you're trying to get that distance. And we've seen that just looking at some of the player stats here over the last few years. Only Bryson DeChambeau here and Rory McIlroy were the only ones inside the top 20. Sorry, Jason Kokrak in there too at 306. But the only 3 players inside the top 20, and that is 22 players averaged. Out of those 22 players, 19 of them averaged under 300 yards. So going to see a little bit of the maybe less than driver, maybe not so much less than driver, but maybe a little bit more of a safer fairways gain type of approach to off the tee this week. So I definitely see that as a reason why we see a lot of long irons. So that's one thing I'm definitely looking at. If we go over here and we look at my model, got ball striking is very, very important, but then I've got 15% weighted on that 200 plus proximity range, par 4 and 5 scoring, and then birdie or better percentage. This is a copy of the sheet, so you actually see my updated model, which I've broken it down a little bit more on the sheet that you guys would see with all my top core plays listed on here as well. So let's look at the weather first of all. So I use windfinder.com, and I'm using the Orlando Executive Airport weather station, which is fairly close to, I believe it's the closest one to the course here. So last year I said there's wind like all 4 days. So Wednesday there's a lot of wind, like for the practice rounds and stuff. But going into Thursday, it's a very calm 5 to 8, 10 mile an hour, not very much in terms of wind gusts here. Friday looks much of the same, really no problem with the wind. Saturday, we're going to get some spike here in the afternoon wave. Maybe that's something we'll look at in terms of showdown. Sunday, there's going to be a little bit more wind, so that's where I'm going to look at a little bit more win players maybe for Sunday. But generally for making the cut Thursday, Friday, I'm not worried about playing one wave or the other. I'm not going to post that on the sheet, the tee times this week or anything like that. If you want to get a closer look with Windfinder, you can see the day by day here. You can break it down with Super Forecast, which gives you the upcoming 3 days. So we can see Thursday and Friday breaking it down hour by hour. So this is something we're going to look at, like I said, a little bit closer when we get into Saturday and Sunday into the showdown rounds. So stay tuned for that in Slack chat or the DFSR chat. I'm going to talk about a few pivots here that I like. First of all, using FanShare Sports, head over there. It's a great product they put together. It's grown so much over the years. It used to be just using it for projections, but now that they've got statistics in there, they've got an optimizer, they've got favorites, they've got absolutely everything you could think of. So head over there. But from what I notice here, looking at the projected ownership, this is where I'm getting these GPP plays from. If you've read my article over at DFSR.com or seen the cheat sheet in my core plays, you'll see that Rory McIlroy is obviously one of my favorite plays. Matthew Fitzpatrick's going to be high owned this week. Victor Hovland looks like he could possibly be one of the highest owned this week. We're going to have to wait and see on that, but definitely with that discount off Rory here, about $900 on DraftKings, I could definitely see that. So I like the pivot to Patrick Reed here. He's top 5 in my model this week. If we slide over, he's got some good. No, I don't want to say good, but he's got some plus course history here. 7th in 2018, 15 T15 last year, T50 in 2019 wasn't great. But if you look at Hovland here, if he's going to be, either first or second in ownership, he's yet to shoot in 8 rounds here, around under 70 at this course. So I'm not sure about him being the highest owned. If I want to jump on board with that, I know he's playing excellent, 3 straight top 5s, 4 top 5s in his last 5 events, including that win. I know he's playing great right now. But at this particular course, which is its own animal, I guess you could say, he hasn't done well here, and he hasn't, like I said, 8 rounds and they're all 70 or worse here. He's made the cut both years, but just not a strong enough performance for me to, at these price tags, I need a win. In anyone in the 10K plus, we know Hatton can give that. I know Hovland can win, but he hasn't really shown it here. Hatton has shown it here. Patrick Reed has shown it that he can get on that leaderboard on Sunday and compete on Sunday here at this tough course. Bryson has, Rory has. So I'd rather take a shot with those guys in GPP versus Hovland if Hovland's going to be the highest owned. So that's kind of my thinking. If you feel Hovland's going to be the highest owned, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on it below in the comments section. So definitely leave that below. Let me know what you think, if I'm maybe off my rocker or not. But that's kind of my bold play of the week, I guess, is just at least pivoting off Hovland. I'm going to have a lot of Rory, and I'm going to mix in Patrick Reed. Keep in mind here in this section that these guys that are in blue that I'm going to talk about as GPP pivots, the 4 players that I've got here, are not, if I'm doing 20 max, they're going to be mixed in maybe 2 or 3 times as pivots off of the chalk guys. I'm not loading up on them. I don't have heavy exposure. So keep that in mind when I'm kind of going over these plays. Next up, we've got, we're going to see some ownership down here with Francisco Molinari. I think he's going to be top 3 highest owned, being that he's sub 9K on DraftKings. Zalator is probably going to get some. Sam Burns, even going up here above Fleetwood. We're going to see some ownership with Paul Casey, with how well he's playing with top 10s coming in each of his last 2 events. He hasn't played here in 4 years, but still he's going to take on some. Jordan Spieth's been playing well. I think he's going to take some ownership here, and I think it's going to push down Tommy Fleetwood. I think we see him probably in that 7 to, I think sub 10, so 7 to 10%, 7 to 9.5% ownership in GPP. Very up and down with him. He hasn't really given us a top 10 on PGA Tour in quite a while. He has top 10s in 2 of his last 4 events here. He missed the cut here last year, so it's good to see that he's competed on the leaderboard, twice. T26 in 3 of those 4 events. So at 9,000, I definitely like Tommy Fleetwood. And if you look at how he's done, the WGC, he was T44, so that was not great. But before that, his last 4 events before that were on the European Tour, the Saudi International T26, the Omega Dubai Desert Classic T17, Abu Dhabi T7, and the DP World Tour Championship T10. Those are some strong events over there. So seeing that he's at least got some top 10 form worldwide is good to see. And if he's going to be 7%, 8% owned in GPPs, I will make some pivots with Tommy Fleetwood in my 20 max build this week. Okay, so scrolling down, a couple more guys that I will be looking at in GPP as pivots off of some of the chalk. Chris Kirk, I don't think he's going to be super low, and I think he's going to be about the same as Fleetwood in that 6 to 8%, 6 to 9% range. But the real chalk down here that I'm going to be looking to pivot off of in some of my builds, in my contrarian builds, will be Matthew Naismith. Didn't do great here last year, but he's coming in hot with irons. I talked about him in my article. I talked about him in chat so far this week as well. I definitely like Naismith here, but to pivot off of him, I definitely like Kirk, who I think is going to be about, I said I'm thinking like 10%, at least 5 to 10% less owned. And he's been playing well. He's got top 15s here at this event in 3 of his last 4 trips to this event, which a top 15 here at these prices is incredible. I would definitely take that. And then just looking at his form coming in, he had a terrible event at the Waste Management. That was start of February, but he rebounded big time at Pebble Beach with a T16. He gained strokes in every strokes gained area. And then before those 2 events, also in 2021, he was T16 at the Amex and T2 at the Sony. He gained 4+ strokes on approach in both of those events, and he's gained in all 3 events that he's made the cut here out of the 4 this year. He's gained strokes putting and around the green in all 3 of those as well. So I love seeing that, especially at an event that he's done well at, and I like him in the sub 10% range, which is going to be a little bit chalky, I guess, but just compared to Naismith, who I think is like 15 to 20%, I like kind of pivoting some of that Naismith exposure over to Kirk here, and then going down, probably in the 4 to 6% ownership range. I think we get Patrick Rodgers here, top 25s in 3 of his 5 trips here. He's made the cut in 4 or 5 trips here. I would even take a T46 as a floor for him at 6,800 here this week, considering that, with his upside, he wasn't so well at the Puerto Rico last week. He's kind of in that, I think he was T8, 18 birdies somewhere in there. I think the ball striking was kind of in that top 30, top 35 range. So it wasn't great last week, but the putting was pretty good. The Genesis, which is a little bit more important to me, it was a much stronger field. Before that, he was red hot with the putter, so that kind of drove that T12. But he was right around field average in all the other strokes gained areas, tee to green, off the tee, approach, and around the green to make up that tee to green. So I kind of have him in like a top 25 range in that tournament as well. He's not going to be safe for cash games whatsoever, because before that run of 2 good finishes, he missed 4 cuts, T17 at the NHL, got NHL on my mind today, OHL Classic, and then 2 missed cuts before that, T59 at the Bermuda, 2 missed cuts before that, and T11 at Corrales. So he seems to be like top 25 or missed cuts. So there's a lot of variance there. But if he's going to be in the low ownership range, we don't need a whole bunch to have more ownership than the field. So I definitely like Patrick Rodgers here at 6,800. These guys are going to make it easy, along with Naismith as well in my builds. I talk about him and the other. Wyndham Clark's another guy I talk about down in this range. There's quite a few guys in this value range that I like, which is going to make, which is probably a reason that drives why 4 of the guys that are projected to be over 20% owned come from the 9,500 and up range on DraftKings this week. So we're going to see a lot of stars and scrubs builds, and these guys really help you get there. Whether you're going for McIlroy, DeChambeau, whether you're going with the Chalk Hovland, Reed, Hatton, Fitzpatrick, while it isn't that strong of a field, there's a lot of good DFS plays here up top this week. So that's my GPP pivots. Now I'm going to jump in. I want to look at a couple of PrizePicks plays. So if you're new to PrizePicks, what you're doing is coming over here, we're going to look at the PGA board specifically this week. And they've changed the scoring this year, so I'm going to be playing a lot more PrizePicks for PGA. Last year it was fantasy scoring. This year it is score. So literally it's a point for stroke. So you're really just betting over under on these players' scores each round. Rounds 1, 2, 3, and 4. There's a contest for each. You're going to pick 2, 3, 4, or 5 of these. If you're picking just 2, you have to have 1 over and 1 under for golf. And if you want to go 2 plays, I'll just give you my 2 plays here, and I'll explain how I'm going to go about doing it this week. So first of all, I like Justin Rose on the over. We'll go look at his just recent form is what really stood out to me, and his last 2 years here at this event, honestly. He hasn't shot under in for what we got 9 straight rounds. He has shot 70 or worse and 73 or worse in 4 of those. So his form is absolutely terrible. Coming back to this event, he missed the cut here last year, shooting 73, 77. In 2019, he was T63 here, but he was 71, 70, 77, 75. So 6 straight rounds here at this event as well. He has shot over 70. So he's going to be my over there for sure. That data really lines up well for me. And then Paul Casey is going to be my under pick. I'm just running a 2-play power play. And just pretty much what that means is if you get both correct, you get 3x your money. If you go flex play on those two, you can get one of them wrong, but if you do that, you're only getting half your money back. So if you bet 20 bucks, you're going to get $10 back if you only get one right, but you're only going to get 2x your money, so $40 if you get it right. Whereas power play, you got to get both right, but you're going to get 60 bucks on a $20 bet if you get both of them right. If you go up to 3 picks here and a power play, you get 5x your money with all 3 right. And if you go power play, you're allowed to get 2. You're allowed to only get 2 of 3 right. And then you're going to get 1.25x. So the flex play is more like it's just like a safer way out. I don't play a lot of flex plays until I get up into the 4 or 5 picks, because if we go, can't do 5, sorry, that's an NBA, other sports. So if we go 4 here and we go a flex play, gotta pick them here. You get 5 correct, it's 10x on the flex play, so that's nice. So you get 200 bucks on a $20 bet if you get all 3 out of 5 picks. I misclicked there. Sorry about that. 4 out of 5 gets you 2x, and 3 out of 5 gets you 0.4x. So that's where I really like to play the flex plays, is when you start adding in more. But generally, for other sports and almost any PrizePicks play that I go with, I love the 2-play power play that gets you 3x on your plays. So you hit 2 times, 2 out of the rounds, you get 3x and 3x. So you're in for 80 bucks overall, but you're out for 120. You're up 40 bucks if you play 2-play power plays and you only get 2 of the 4 rounds right. So you're only right 50% of the time. You're still up 40 bucks at the end of the tournament playing 2-play power plays and getting them right just twice. Get them right 3 times, that's another 60 bucks. You're up 100 bucks in the tournament on an $80 investment. So that's kind of the way I look at it. I really like the power plays, and Paul Casey's the other one. Going to my second pick here. What I like about him is his form. He hasn't played here in a while, as we've talked about here already. But what I like with his recent form is that he shot under 70 in 6 of his last 7 rounds overall through the American Express and Pebble Beach there. So those are going to be my PrizePicks plays this week. Now we're going to head over to DFSR. We're going to look at the tools here and how I'm going to use them this week. So first of all, some filters that you're going to see. You're going to choose your number of lineups that you want to build. You're going to look at the randomness. So what this is if you're building 50 lineups and you lock in 3 players, if your randomness is at 0, you're going to see a lot of overlap in those other 3 players throughout those 50 lineups. Versus if you go to 100, you're going to see a lot of randomness. Your player pool is going to be a lot bigger on those 3 spots to fill in on those other 50 lineups. We're going to look at that here shortly as well. You got filters such as salary, points, and value. So some weeks, if I want to build a balanced build with the lineups optimizer, what I'll do is maybe drop this down to, let's say, 9,500. So this is something you can definitely do for majors when we have a lot of players. You want to maybe build some contrarian lineups and get away from those chalky guys in the 10K, 11K range. You can just go down here and just simply bring that salary range down to 9,500 and then hit optimize. It eliminates all those players in your player pool that are above that salary range. Same with projected points here as well. I don't know why you would want to do that, but salary is the one that I use most times. I'll talk about that a little more as we get closer to the majors. I don't use that in regular events. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a few players from my article. I'm going to lock them in and show you how I use the optimizer. So first of all, we got Rory. He's my favorite. Probably have close to the most exposure to him. Talked about Matthew Naismith here as well down in the other range. His price at 6,900 on DraftKings really makes it easy to put it together. And then I want to grab someone kind of in that middle range, Francisco Molinari. So there's 3 players that I wrote up in my article. And then I'll just hit optimize on DraftKings. And it's going to spit out 50 lineups right at us. Right. First of all, I've got the randomness set to 0 on here, as you can see. So right away, what we see is we see a lot of Will Zalatoris, 96%. So in those 50 lineups, Zalatoris shows up 96% of the time with those 3 players that we locked in. Corey Connors at 24%, but he fits towards the top because of his projection. And then Stenson shows up as well. Well, just first of all, I'm not a fan of Stenson here, so I'm going to X him. So you can do that as you start building lineups. Hit optimize again, see what spits out. Sometimes we got to wait for it to calculate when we start locking players. So now we can start using the limit feature, the percent feature, as well as the randomness. So now if we just crank randomness up to 100 here with the 3 lock players that we have in there. What we see is we still get our 3 lock players, but now we're seeing a bunch of different players throughout our lineups with those 3 spots that we're filling in with. So that's how the randomness works. You can also go in here. We're seeing a lot of Zalatoris, like I said. So let's just go look at him. I do like him this week, so I'm perfectly fine with it. But if we go and just limit him to 10 here, and we take the randomness back to 0, which had him at 96% before throughout our 50 lineups that we built. Now we've got him at 10% like we have set here in the limit feature. So that's how we use that feature. So that's how I go ahead and build GPP lineups with the optimizer and just kind of tweak things. Don't just hit optimize and then just hit export and go throw them in. I mean, you can do that for sure. And the weeks where our projections are very close to how it turns out, that player pool, that tight player pool that you put in here, is going to be awesome, because if you put that 20 lineups, you just go optimize. If you're playing 20 max, for instance, let's just set this at 20. We hit optimize. We've locked in our 3 players. Okay, we've got Will Zalatoris at 100% here. So what we're going to do is let's go set our randomness at 50. These are just a few simple filters to get you started if you're new to PGA, that you can come in here and you can just now hit export, creates a CSV. So when you go over to DraftKings, you drop that CSV in, enter your lineup in a 20 max, boom, done. It's that quick and easy. But if you want to go a little bit further, like I said, you can turn this randomness wherever you'd like, back to 0. I definitely like 50 is a good spot here. We get a nice mix of players. But if you don't want Zalatoris there, you want him at maybe 20. You go in there. Like I said, I didn't like Henrik Stenson, so I went and X'd him out. JT Poston here at 40%. I don't like, X him out. Yeah, optimize again. Pretty much just playing around. So there's a lineup I really like. There's another one I really like. I talked about Chris Kirk as a GPP pivot. He's now showing up here with just a few simple filter changes. So sometimes I'll start, if you want to experiment, the best thing you can do is go in the 5 cent, 10 cent, 25 cent, 50 cent contests, because building 20 max or even 150 max, so you go in the 25 cent, you go and calculate that in. I think it's $37.50 if you go in 25 cent, 150. Yeah, $37.50 it costs you to go in and experiment. So come in here, use your filter, set this at 50, change the randomness to 0 to start with, export 50 lineups, and then come back, change things up a little bit, throw the randomness up to 50, optimize again, export them, come in here and start Xing some players, change your locked players, maybe take off Molinari, go with some players that I talked about as GPP pivots in the video here, lock some players that you personally like, change things up with your 3 different builds for 50 max lineups, and throw those 150 into a lineup, 3750. You can start really experimenting with the optimizer and all the filters each and every week for a very small investment. That's how I test things out on here. That's how I test things coming into these videos and stuff. So definitely give it a try. If you got questions, hit me up in the chat anytime. Slack chat for my patrons, or DFSR chat. And I'm quite busy in and out of the chat during the day. So if you really want some one-on-one coaching, want to talk strategy a little bit more, DFSR members, definitely hit me up in a DM, not just the member chat. I might miss it. So definitely hit me up there. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure to check it all out. And I'm going to have some timestamps here so you can kind of flip through. If you're coming back to the video for a second time and just want, okay, what did he say about PrizePicks? You can just go click on that. So make sure to check that out on the description below. I will have that there. Thanks for watching. Smash up that like button, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks a lot.